Hey, what is going on guys? RvzStealth here, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the most significant changes and the new strong and weak champions heading into patch 8.8. So as always, I'll be going over the changes to the champion or to any significant change heading into next patch, and I'll give it a rating based on a scale of 1 to 5. 1 meaning that it's not really going to affect the champion at all, and then 5 meaning that the champion's going to be super OP. And then I'll also give them just an up and down arrow so you can know whether or not the champion is getting buffed or nerfed. So we're going to start off with the biggest changes here in next patch. The first one is to Ahri. So Ahri is getting basically a mini rework in next patch. She's getting a change to where they're moving back a lot of power into her E. In next patch, her E is going to cause her other abilities to deal 20% more damage. And so they're reverting that back to where it was, I'm pretty sure like a few years ago. That is how Ahri's E works. So they're kind of giving more power now into actually hitting that charm. And this will make Ahri a little bit harder to play. If you're someone who cannot land your charm consistently on Ahri, then you will be losing out on a little bit of damage in next patch. And then her passive and Q are also getting some pretty interesting changes. So the movement speed is no longer going to be from your Q. It's now moved over to your passive, and it's going to work to where it's going to give you 20% movement speed for 3 seconds if 2 spells hit an enemy within a 1.5 second period. And then her Q is now going to be what heals her. Her passive is no longer going to be the heal. Her Q is going to be the only ability that can actually heal her. You can still stack up your heal with your other abilities, so I think you still need 9 stacks in order to proc the heal, but your Q is now going to be the only ability that can actually heal you. So overall, the reason to why I'm giving this an up and a down arrow is because these changes should be good for more experienced Ahri players. If you're an Ahri player who can land your charm consistently and you're not always missing that, then this should be a nice change for you. But if you are an Ahri player who just isn't as experienced, if you're not consistently hitting your charm, then this would end up being a nerf to that kind of a player. And the other really big change heading into 8.8 is the Leblanc rework revert. So if you can remember back to when before Leblanc was reworked, the main damage combo of the old Leblanc was hitting the Q on the opponent to proc the mark, and then you could go in with your W or your E to consume that mark and deal quite a bit of damage. And I think the fact that that playstyle is back now should make Leblanc a little bit stronger in 8.8 because her combo is going to be a little bit easier to pull off, and it is also going to be a lot more instant burst damage. With the reworked Leblanc, I think the fact that you had to wait a certain duration in order to proc all your burst damage just didn't make her the most fulfilling assassin. She just didn't feel super good to play because you couldn't get that burst damage off immediately. But because she is getting reverted back here, I think she will be easier to play, and her burst combo is just going to be easier to pull off for the average player. So next up here, we do have 2 different buffs to Lissandra. Her Q's mana cost is getting lowered, and her ultimate's cooldown is also getting lowered. Now in this current meta, with champions like Zed being played a lot, with a lot of these assassins just being played more, I think that Lissandra is actually not a bad pick. I still think she is a pretty bad blind pick. Like, she doesn't really have a lot of super good matchups, and she's still not the best mid lane champion overall, but I think that with this buff here, it should make her a decent pick into some of these assassins. And as a counter pick, I think that she isn't going to be all that bad now in 8.8. So I don't think it would be considered a league patch without some sort of a buff or nerf to Ryze, and Ryze is actually getting hit with a pretty big nerf in next patch. The mana cost on his E is being increased by 20 at rank 1, and this is really going to hurt Ryze's ability to shove in the early game. He is going to run out of mana a lot faster, so this might actually affect the point in the game to where Ryze would be able to pick up his tier. He isn't going to be able to just spam his E on minions now in the laning phase, and if he does, he is going to run out of mana super fast. So I think that with this nerf here, and also with the mana flow ban changes in last patch, it just makes Ryze's early game a lot weaker. And I do think that this change, along with the next change we're going to take a look at here, is just not going to make Ryze a very good pick in 8.8. And while we are on the topic of Ryze right now, we're just going to take a look at the Archangel changes in next patch here. Now, what they're doing is the passive mana to AP conversion is being lowered from 3% of your max mana down to 1% of your max mana. Now, this is really going to hurt champions like Anivia, Ryze, and Casio the most, just because those champions are going to be getting a ton of mana, and the fact that it got nerfed from 3% down to 1%, that's actually a really big nerf there. If you've got like 1,000 mana, that's like getting 30 ability power in this patch, and now in 8.8 you'd only be getting 10 ability power, so you're going to be losing out on a ton of AP now by going Archangels in next patch. And on a lot of champions that were going Archangels before, like Talia or Syndra, or these champions that could also do well with Ludens, I think that a lot of champions will now switch over to Ludens for 8.8, but this is really going to hurt those champions that did want to go Archangel every single game, like the Anivia, the Casio, and the Ryze. Now, the following changes here, I'm just really confused about, because the champions that are getting changed are not problem champions right now down in the bot lane. The first champion getting changed is Braum, and he's actually getting nerfed. Now, the reason to why I just don't understand this change is because Braum is definitely not an OP support in this patch right now. He's very mediocre. He's sitting at like a 47-48% win rate, so he's even below average if you base that on win rate. He's getting outclassed right now by the Janna, the Nami, the Lulu, so I'm just really confused as to why Braum is getting nerfed in 8.8 and not a lot of the other enchanter supports. So if you are a Braum player, I would probably just not really be playing him in next patch unless you do end up, or unless the enemy team ends up picking like the Thresh or the Blitzcrank, then you're just not going to have a great time in 8.8 against a lot of the enchanter supports. And the other support that is getting nerfed that I just don't really agree with is Tahmn Kench. So his W is getting nerfed, and then his E is also getting nerfed, and this will affect his laning phase for sure. The E change there, the fact that you're not going to be restoring as much health, is just going to mean that his laning phase will be weaker. It's going to be easier to poke out Tahmn Kench in the laning phase, and it's just indirectly going to make enchanter supports even stronger in 8.8, which I just don't agree with, because they're already super strong right now in 8.7. And then the last change to supports for 8.8 is a very measly nerf to Janna. So she's getting a change to where her base movement speed is getting lowered by 5, and then her W's damage is also being lowered by 5 at all ranks. So this will definitely not affect Janna at all for 8.8. She is still going to be the strongest support for next patch, and she still is going to be probably your go-to support in 8.8 if you are looking to gain elo. And then another very weird change in next patch is a nerf to Galio. Now, I would kind of understand this one if Galio was still a pick or ban champion in the competitive scene, because when Galio is strong in the competitive scene, he usually still isn't that great in solo queue, but he's still not even being a pick or ban champion, or I'm pretty sure he was not a pick or ban champion during the playoffs, so I'm just confused why he's getting another nerf here. He was hit pretty hard a few patches ago with the mana cost increase on his Q, so I just don't think that Galio is going to be a very good pick at all for next patch, and I would definitely stay away from him in the mid lane. So next up here, we do have a nerf to Irelia, and I think that this nerf is definitely more of the understandable nerfs for 8.8. A lot of the other changes so far I just haven't really agreed with, but right now Irelia is definitely a very strong top lane pick. She does have a very high play rate, and she also does have a pretty good win rate as well, so that generally means that a champion is a pretty strong pick if their win rate and their play rate are both high. So her nerf here to her ultimate in next patch will bring her down in power a little bit, and it will definitely make her a little bit weaker, but I still think she is going to be a pretty strong top lane pick in 8.8. So one of the more problem champions down in the bot lane right now, Kaisa, is getting a little bit of a nerf in next patch. Now, as you can see here though, I'm only giving this one a 1 rating because in my opinion, she should still remain the best AD carry for 8.8. So she's getting a base HP regen decrease, her HP regen growth is also getting lowered, and her Q80 ratio is being lowered by only 5%. So if you are a Kaisa player, you shouldn't be too worried about these changes, and if you're someone who's thinking about about picking up Kaisa, then she should still remain a pretty good pick for at least the next few patches. So this change here to Varus is a pretty interesting one. He is getting kind of a rework here to his W, to where his W's passive damage is going to be lowered, but his W is now going to have an active, to where when you activate your W, your next Q is going to deal an insane amount of damage based on the target's missing health. So I think how you're going to want to use this on Varus is, if you're looking for an all-in, you're going to like use your ultimate, use your E. Once they get low on HP, you activate this W and then you use your Q, because your Q is going to deal bonus damage based on the target's missing health. So it's going to be more of an execute ability now, and I think this should make Varus's all-in during the laning phase a lot stronger, and his ability to finish off those low health targets is going to be a lot better in 8.8. So next up here, we have some changes to Vi, and these changes are going to make Vi's early game quite a bit stronger. That's where a lot of the buffs are targeted towards here. So her base attack speed is being increased, her mana per level is being increased, the passive cooldown is being lowered by 4 seconds in the early ranks, her Q cooldown is being lowered by 4 seconds at rank 1, and then her E's mana cost is also being lowered by quite a bit there at rank 1. So her early clear is going to be a lot better. It's going to leave her healthier, it's going to be faster, she is going to be higher on mana as well. So I think the combination of all of these buffs should make Vi a pretty good pick in next patch. But keep in mind right now, the meta just doesn't really suit Vi super well. We're seeing a lot of supports like Janna, Lulu, these just champions that do very well against Vi at stopping her from diving onto the backline. So even though these buffs do seem pretty nice to her, she still doesn't fit super well into the meta. So I'm just not too sure how much stronger she is going to be even with these direct changes. Now, one of the bigger changes in 8.8 here is not to champions, it's actually to the Oracle Lens. So what they're doing is the Oracle Lens is now going to be available at level 1. So you can take this, and they're removing the sweeping lens. So the sweeping lens is the one that you can just place in one spot and it's going to sweep an area. But the Oracle Lens here, which is going to be available at level 1, is going to be the lens that follows you around and you can move with it, and it's going to reveal wards. So this is actually going to be a really nice change to a few different type of champions. So any shove and roam mid laners or assassins are going to like this change, because on your first base, or once you do hit level 6 and you're looking to roam, then picking up this oracles just to know if you're being spotted when you're roaming, or to know if a bush is warded, is really going to help out these shove and roam assassins. It's also going to make these early game snowball champions stronger, like early game snowball junglers or mid laners. And then roaming supports are also going to like this change. Someone like Bard or Blitzcrank who does want to roam, their ability to spot out wards and just know if they're wasting time when they're roaming is going to be really good for 8.8. And the final change here in this video is going to be to lethal tempo, and the attack speed on it is being increased by 10% in the early ranks and then by 30% in the later ranks. Now, champions that may benefit from this change include Varus, Master Yi, Kog'Maw, Kaisa, and Kale. The reason why I say they may benefit from the change though is because I'm just not too sure if even with these buffs to lethal tempo, if it will make it stronger than fleet footwork. We will have to wait and see, but those are the champions there that if this does end up being a nice change to them, those are the champions that would benefit the most from it. So that is going to be all for this video, guys. If you did enjoy the video, then be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you have yet to already. So thanks for watching, have an awesome day, and I will see you in my next video.